Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. I've got an outstanding artist on the show with us today with Robert Jon Burrison from Robert Jon The Wreck. These guys are just an awesome blues band, old school rock and roll. Robert writes great songs. He's got an awesome voice, and I'm really happy to have him on the show. I just want to give a shout out to our mutual friend, John Bleischer. John, thanks a lot for the hookup. And let me give you Robert's background, and we'll dig in. If you don't know Robert Jon The Wreck, you really need to get hip to them. They're an awesome, soulful, kick-ass blues rock band, great musicians. The band is incredibly tight. I mean, like Grateful Dead tight. That's how tight these guys are. The band's released 7 studio and 1 live album to date. I've gone through their entire catalog. It's great. My favorite record is 2020's Last Light on the Highway, but every album is solid. It has some amazing tracks on it. 2 guitars, bass, drums, and the elusive B3 keyboards. These guys are really bringing it. Over the last few years, the band's toured extensively throughout the States as well as all over Europe, and they're headed off to Europe again shortly. Robert, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you coming on the show, and sorry for the late floppy start.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. My pleasure. You started off playing drums. What made you go from drums to guitar?
The amount of things I had to bring to play drums and set up. No, it was just it's kind of a natural. Well, you know, it's real.
Yeah,
kind of just natural progression in a way. You know, playing drums, you have to have the people singing and playing guitar that are just as motivated as you. You know, so you can pick up a guitar and write some songs and go play at a coffee shop or a bar, and with drums, you can't really do that as easily. So I think it was just natural. I mean, I really didn't think too much about it. It was just, I played guitar as well.
Okay.
And then when, you know, the garage bands weren't doing anything, I was playing guitar and singing and, you know, so forth and so forth. You know, I mean, it just kept, well, I'm busier with this and then that. So I still love playing the drums whenever a chance I get, but it's definitely on the back burner.
Very cool. How did you get into songwriting?
You know, in the playing drums in the garage bands in high school, we never were like a cover band. You know, some kids like start out by learning songs and then playing them. We just started writing songs. So we just started jamming and, you know, someone came up with the 3 chords and the singer at the time came up with something to sing over it. And so we were always just writing. And it was kind of just the fuel. You know, I think the only reason I started learning covers is because we started getting bar gigs that were 3 hours and we needed more material than what we had already. So it was kind of always in there. And then, you know, my dad was always picking on a guitar and he could play pretty much any song with the 3 chords that he knew. And so that's how it started. And, you know, I mean, I think the first song I ever wrote was called I Gotta Go. And it didn't have anything to do with going to the bathroom or anything. But I was listening to Johnny Cash and all those old country artists and, you know, just you just start putting words to, music. And at first it's not very good. And you just keep on doing it until you hit something that you think, hey, I want to share this. Yeah. So it was just kind of a natural thing. It felt like, you know, I didn't sit there and say, I want to start writing songs now.
Right.
Just kind of in the blood, I guess.
That's pretty cool because usually when you're playing, you're playing in cover bands. That's not usual that you're doing originals right from day one or from early on.
Yeah, it was. I guess at the time we didn't. It felt like that's what you do when you join a band. You join a band and write songs. At least for the kids that I was playing with back in high school. So at the time we didn't think it was weird. We thought that's what we had to do to be in a band.
That's awesome.
Then you grow up and you're like, oh, a lot of kids start learning songs and then, write later. So it was kind of just a interesting epiphany as the older you get.
It is. And it's funny how things like that, like dramatically alter the course of your life. I mean, so. I think that's pretty awesome. That's awesome, man. So before Robert Jon and the Wreck was a thing, what were you doing musically?
I was, playing in coffee shops and writing songs, and I recorded 2 CDs before the Wreck was alive, if you want to say. And we were just going out as Robert Jon Band, just playing the venues that would book us and doing everything we could, And the reason why the Wreck kind of happened is because everyone in the band we were all doing it together. We were all writing together. We were all, sacrificing to go out on non-successful tours. We were in it, so I wanted to make it more of a band than a backing band, if you will.
Yeah. Well, talk about, so you guys formed in 2011 in February, and I don't know if this is accurate. It said within 6 months you played 60 shows nationally and self-released your first album. Is that correct?
It sounds about right.
I mean, I can't imagine the workload involved in making all that happen. I'd love you to tell me about that, and also, the work involved to make that happen. And what were some of the most important things you learned from that early experience?
I mean, I had made a couple records before that, that I still have in my parents' garage, but they don't see the light of day anymore. And then, so I think when we started to get the band name going, and it was almost like a step of taking it to the next level in our heads. And then, so we went in the studio and recorded the record, and I almost feel like that was the easy part. Cause we just had to find the right place and figure out how we're going to pay for it. And then, from there, I've always been wanting to go on the road. I used to go on the road and just play coffee shops up the West Coast for the sheer fun of it.
Okay.
And then before the Wreck, we were going out throughout the Midwest. I had friends in Nebraska and friends in South Dakota and Iowa, and we would go out there and play. And we just didn't realize that you need consistency. Beside the fact that you need to be good and have good songs, we just went out there and made zero money, and then we came home for a year. But it was just the idea of going on tour that we enjoyed and that we thought we should be doing. So yeah, I mean, it's those early years, I think one of the first tours we were in my parents' minivan, traveling through in the winter, because we didn't realize that traveling in winter would be any different than, we're just dumb kids.
Well, you're kids, man. You're a little more bulletproof, man.
Yeah. We just want to go out there and play music in different states and in different cities. And, I remember we walked into a bar in Chico, California. We didn't have a show, but we had a place to stay, so it was kind of the opposite of now. It's like, well, we have a show, and now let's figure out where to stay.
Right.
Back then we're like, well, where do we have places to stay? And let's book shows around that. And I remember
that's pretty clever, actually.
We stayed with our keyboard player's cousin. And when I say a place to stay, I mean, they have carpet.
Right.
That's all we needed at the time. Like, just
sure.
As long as it's carpet, And we walked into a bar and we said, hey, do you have music tonight? And they're like, no. And we said, can we play here? And they said, what? And we're like, we're a touring band. We just need a place to play tonight. We brought out our laptop and showed them a song. And they're like, okay, you can play for tips and beer. And we're like, that's all we need.
Great.
So some of those first tours were pretty rugged, and we were just out there having a good time, but we were learning what it takes. We were putting in the hours and learning what it takes to be in a band, let alone travel and play, and knowing what it's like to play for 5 people and understanding what it is, at a small level, and, getting to a gas station and being like, okay, who's paying for gas? Like, oh, I got $20, well, we made $30 in tips last night, so let's just put 50 in for now.
Right.
I mean, I remember looking back on it and just being like, wow, I don't even know how we did it.
Well, it's also cool that you guys had a pretty good level of confidence to do that too. It takes, you can't be sheepish about, hey man, can we play? You got to be like, hey man, Can we play? And that takes a lot of confidence. I give you credit on that. Along those same lines, I was curious about something, because when you have your name on a band, as you do, whether it's reality or not, you're owning a lot, if not all of the results and expectations. And I can see something like that becoming overwhelming at times. So I was curious, has it ever become overwhelming? And if so, what's like the conversation you have in your own head to, you know, for lack of better terms, talk yourself off the cliff?
Yeah, you know, I mean, it hasn't been that much of worry, because it's always been like that, you know. Before it was just Robert Jon, and then it was Robert Jon Band, you know, and now it's Robert Jon The Wreck, and I think it actually makes it easier to have five guys up there who are locked in to what we're doing, and some of the most amazing musicians I've ever known, you know, being up there and we're doing it together. I think that made it easier than before, you know, kind of than worrying too much about how it, you know, it's just my name and a band, you know. Maybe we'll talk again in about 4 years, and I'll tell you the ways of coping through that. Yeah.
I could see. It's just, you know, I give you credit because it is a responsibility. You know.
Yeah, for sure. It's, you know, it's definitely, you got to make sure you're putting in the work just like everybody else. And you're not falling ethics on the wayside, or, you know, you got to be supportive of everyone else making the sacrifice if your name's on it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
I want to talk about some of my favorite Robert Jon The Wreck songs. So, Tightrope from Good Life Pie. First of all, that is an awesome album cover. That is like, that girl is so sexy there. What is, I don't usually ask about covers, but it was like, that was a pretty cool cover. How did that come about?
You know, I think it was like a throwback to some of those old rock and roll covers. And I think there was like a Ween cover of kind of like a crop top type thing that we were just trying to do a throwback thing because we hadn't seen something like that in today's rock and roll. And I think we realized why people don't do that too much. We did get, you know, we did have a lot of people say they wouldn't buy the record because of that cover.
No. You're kidding me.
It's weird. Oh no, it's that we definitely had that told to us.
There was no nudity on it. It was just like that's what made it so hot, because it was like
it's just, she's
sexually alluring. Yeah, but it wasn't like, you know, Mardi Gras. You know.
Yeah, it was supposed to be just a fun, sexy cover, and it was. And so we stand by it, and it was a lot of fun to make because, you know, the people the girl on the cover is a friend of ours. You know, it's not anything weird.
Yeah.
You know, and we're like, but yeah, we have to get the pie in it. You know, the pie is just as important for us. You know, so
right, of course.
The photographer's like, okay, focus on the pie more. Okay. No, it was fun, but yeah, Tightrope is I love that song. It's great.
It's a great track. It starts off with a riff like similar to like the opening of Whipping Post, and the actual track itself almost sounds like it could be like an homage to the Allman Brothers. Great guitar work in there. Twin guitar arrangements. How did you guys come up with those twin guitar arrangements? It was really cool.
It definitely is an homage to, you know, the Allman Brothers, and that was the first instrumental track that we did, and it was kind of like a brainchild from our past guitar player Chris Butcher, and then just bringing it into the room and saying, okay, where do we go from here, you know, and having everyone in the room like, well, let's try to go in here, you know, let's go over here, and it was just in the beginning it was just a fun song to play, and it let me have a 15-minute break on singing some of these long tours.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was the first installment of an instrumental that we've done.
Great track.
So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Really loved it. One Last Time from Last Light on the Highway. I thought it was a really pretty ballad, and I love how the song rocks out at the end. The guitar and everything is great. Is that a story about a specific relationship? I mean, to whatever extent. Yeah. No, One Last Time.
Oh, One Last Time.
From Last Light on the Highway.
Yeah, I mean, that was, I think the lyrics started, we all write really cohesively together in whatever lineup we're in. And I think that was those lyrics started as a brainchild from our keyboard player, Steve Majora, at the time. And I mean, he always pretty much writes from happenings. So I would say so. And then, but that one just took on a new life. I mean, from the the first half of that song, is, it could be turn into just a soft, it is, a soft ballad, just telling a story. And then I forget how it happened, but then that riff comes in there and totally blows it out of the water.
Dude, the shit explodes. It's awesome.
Yeah. It was cool it was a cool song to write, and it's been a fun song to perform as well.
Oh, I bet. Then the Last Light on the Highway Part 2. Man, that's like a 6-minute explosion of fury. That's what I wrote here, because that's what it sounded like. Yeah. What's the backstory to that? I'm the last light on the highway. I thought that was pretty cool. What's the backstory and what's the meaning of that?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been road dogs, and we're always hitting the road and finding the next thing that happens. And a lot of our friends here in Orange County have we've played with, and some of them haven't kept going, and some of them only want to play in Orange County, and that's okay. And we kind of looked at it as we're the last light on the highway. I mean, we're still out there pushing forward and gunning it, and that song itself. I mean, so you talk about Tightrope. Tightrope was the first kind of instrumental track that we wrote, and then on the 2 records after that, we had other instrumentals. We had Witchcraft and Cannonball, and so Last Light on the Highway was kind of our version of taking songwriting to the next step. And, let's do an instrumental song, but let's also have a song within it. And let's put those 2 things together instead of just kind of separating them. And so it almost turned out to be like an opus of some sort.
It is.
It was pretty epic to put together in the room with the guys, and adding real strings to it. And, it was a lot of fun to put together. And and now when I don't know if we played it live for a little bit, just because it seemed like it seems like if you take the magic out of that recording, we wouldn't want to ruin it, but we've kind of figured that out, and now playing it live, it just bursts into a beautiful thing.
It is, man. And it's nice to hear you describe it, because I could hear and see the sort of, the sense of pride that you have in putting it together. It's really nice. Last song I want to talk about is from Shine a Light on You, Brother, Hurricane. This was, again, lyrically, it's very clever. Timing was never our thing. I wish it was. And my comment was, I hope all these songs about broken love aren't based on your reality. Tell me the backstory to that one. And also, I don't know who's playing slide on there, but the slide on there is beautiful.
Yeah, that'd be Henry James on slide.
That's awesome.
I mean, that song kind of came from me and my buddy Ian Colin, who does a lot of writing with us. We were sitting in his kitchen, and I picked up the guitar and just started playing. And me and him kind of started going back and forth with different words and everything like that. And I mean, I feel like I write a lot about relationships that I know about, friends and here and there. And then sometimes I look at a song, I'm like, oh, well, I guess that one was more about something that happened to me. But it's just about sometimes
life.
Sometimes you meet people and it's just the wrong time, and it turns out to be better because the person that you meet after that is, the person you should be with and all that stuff. And it's about, about someone being a little wild, little hurricane. But I love that song. It's means a lot. And it took a while to get that song to where we finally had it. It was just a song that needed a little bit more love to it in a weird way.
Well, I'll tell you, it's, like I said, I went through your whole catalog. There's not, you could tell the effort you put into your songwriting, man, because there's nothing that's sort of like, well, this one was 50%, these five are 110%, I mean, you could tell you really flesh things out, and you have a lot of pride of ownership, the group collectively, in the songwriting, and it's really nice. That was one of the nice things I liked about going through your catalog, and it was like, holy shit, these guys are really, really good. I mean, they're bringing it every song pretty much, and it was really nice to experience. And I'm happy to see the joy that is coming out of you and as you're talking about this, because that makes total sense.
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of songs that were only 50%, and they're still in the back catalog. Right. There's a reason why those ones made the record, and
right,
other 22 didn't.
Sure.
But yeah, we try to put as much, we try to put the work in. Mm-hmm. I feel like in the past, maybe we had a song that was 70% and we just put it out because it was fun to play, but it didn't really matter. No one's going to relate to those lyrics because they really don't mean anything. And we just found that, if the lyrics mean something and it means something to you, the guys that are playing it on the stage, if we can play it and it means something to us without anyone there, then it's going to translate a lot better than a song that means nothing to us. That, if it means nothing to us, why should it mean anything to anyone else? Absolutely,
man. I agree with you. Work ethic is something that comes, it's very deliberate. So for you, where did your work ethic come from?
I'm still trying to find it every day.
No, man. I mean, I know what you're saying, but you're giving it.
It's knowing something that you want and you want to get it and you want to work for it. It's always having goals, and we started out in the beginning saying like, this is gonna, like Andrew, our drummer Andrew Spatman, has been playing with me since before the Wreck was a Wreck. And we kind of looked at each other when we started the Wreck and said, okay, let's see where we are in 10 years. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to be doing this in 5 years. It was like, well, we need to do this for 10 years and then let's see where we're at.
Right. And
then
so you put the commitment in, you had the vision, and you like had the intention up front.
Yeah. And, and I always say this, but,
that's cool.
It's going up a ladder, and we want to always be going up that ladder. And some people try to skip parts, they try to hop up 2 rungs instead of just 1 rung at a time. It doesn't matter how fast you're going, because if you go too fast, you're going to fall down. But if you just keep consistent and you just keep going up those rungs 1 at a time, make sure your feet are solid before you even try to go to the next one.
Yeah.
Because when your feet aren't solid and you try to keep going, that's when you fall back down, and we never want to fall back down. And we never want to be still, but we want to make sure we're set, and then we just slowly keep climbing up that ladder.
I really give you a lot of credit, because that's a pretty mature outlook on things. And like, that's something I didn't learn until I was in my 50s, that, you don't have to suffer. You just have to show up. It's the old, like, slow and steady wins the race, man. You know, and I think that's a great that this already. 5 of your records have been self-released. How has that helped you? And at the same time, what are the challenges of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been a DIY band pretty much the whole time, and we weren't going to sit around and wait for a record label, and we're going to sit around and wait for someone to come in to, show us the way. We wrote songs, and then we figure out where to record them, and then we release it in the best of our abilities. And every time we release it, we see what we should have done differently and what we shouldn't have done.
Awesome.
And so the next release, we do it a little better, and then we see what happens there. And then we say, let's not do this. Let's do this instead next time. So we're always learning. We're learning how it is, and knowing, what strategies work and what strategies don't. And I think it's just given us freedom to self-release our records, and I think we get to learn every single time. If someone was releasing our record since day one, we wouldn't know anything about the actual business side, and we wouldn't understand why this record did well and this record didn't. So it gives us more insight and more control on how moving forward makes the most sense.
It's really good that you have embraced the whole concept of the business side, because I hear this from everybody. In the beginning, it's just music, but once you start making some headway, it is a business. And if you don't know it, it's problematic. I mean, Steve Jewell, we talked about him earlier. He's a perfect example. That's a guy who embraced, the business aspect of stuff,
Yeah, very much so. We did a run when he was in Otis, and he was, after every show, we would sit down for a beer and he just wanted to talk business.
Yeah.
And different avenues and how to move forward and what PR company should we use. And, he was always business, and we loved it.
Good. Where'd you grow up, and what was your childhood like?
I was born in Long Beach, California. I've been native to Southern California my whole life. Raised in Cerritos, California, which is a little city in between LA and, Orange County. Mm-hmm. And, that's where I grew up. I've just been here my whole life. There was another part of your question.
What was your childhood like? No, it's cool. What was your childhood like?
It was great. I had, my older siblings were much older than me, by 12 years. Mm-hmm. So I got the only child benefits with the sibling benefits as well.
Yeah.
And it was great. We, both my parents were teachers, and, so I was at Grandma and Grandpa's a lot before school and after school. And, it was, I think it was great childhood. I mean, I have no complaints.
Very cool. Interesting.
I'm blessed in that way.
I'm happy to hear that, man. My daughter is 10 years younger than our oldest son, and 10 and 8 years younger than her brothers. So and she's had the same thing. She's spoiled only child, but yet she had the access to the, to the older brother. So I know it's kind of a fun slot to be in.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I don't know any other slot because that's how I was raised, but it worked out, I mean, and my parents were always supportive of the music side, and the creative side. So, and my dad had the guitars already. So, when I asked for a drum set, it wasn't a yes, let's go buy it right now. But it was like, we hear you, and that sounds like a good idea. Wait a little bit. We'll see what happens. So right. It wasn't that immediate gratification of like, I want this, here it is.
Yeah.
But it was, he wants that, and he wants to see what that is. So let's curate that and how the best way to go about it. And so they're still supportive. They still come out to the local shows, and even if it's awesome. At a bar at 9:00, my 84-year-old dad will be walking in there. I guarantee it.
Ah, that's cool. That's the number one quality that successful musicians have in common is they had supportive parents. At least through the almost 900 guests I've interviewed, like 99% have had supportive parents. It's very prominent. Did you ever consider doing something else at any point, or you always knew early on that you wanted to be a musician?
I after high school, into college, I think is when I decided that I was going to be a musician, and I just had to figure out how it is or how to do it.
Right.
I've had I think my first job, I was a janitor at a church, and then, I was a barista at a coffee shop for 6 years, kind of in that era of doing little tours and playing at night, but not really making any money. Mm-hmm. And the beauty of that is that
dude, it sounds like
my boss
New York. It sounds like you're in New York City.
Sorry.
No. I don't usually hear that. Only when I'm talking to guys in New York.
Yeah, we're right next to the street, so get it every now and then. But it gave me the liberty to, hey, I want to go on a 2-week tour. Okay, well, just whenever you're back, just come back. So there was freedom there, which was, I don't know what I would have done without that. And I mean, in the beginning, you have your doubts. You want to move out, or you want to, get to a different place. And but I feel the music was always the road I was on, and there's things that support it along the way. But it was still that was always kind of the vision, and how to do this professionally was the goal. And that's what we're doing.
What were some of the low points or dark periods you've had to deal with in life, and how'd you get through them?
Well, when it comes to the band, I know it's when those key members leave to pursue other things. Those are always hard times, because at the time we're rolling, we're doing really well, and you take one cog out of the wheel and it doesn't roll. You have to fix it, and so you go through those. Are we going to be able to fix it? If we fix it, is it going to be as fast as we were? So those are always hard parts, but so far, every time, we replaced those wheels, that we kept moving and kept cruising. So sometimes it's for the better, for the longevity of what we're doing is to get the right people in the right places. And, I mean, as far as the band goes, that would be what I'd say. I mean, there's been like death in the family growing up, and a cousin when I was, 15, left. And that was pretty hard to wrap your head around as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
And why would someone do that? It makes you think a lot. And that's kind of, immerse myself even more into music, because sit in my room and play guitar, you just focus on that, and you get to let things out through that avenue. And that's always been my avenue of, even to this day, if there's something on my mind and we are writing a song and words come out, I'm like, where'd that come from? Oh, that probably came from dealing with that, or, it's always been my outlet. It's always been what, and I feel like sometimes if things are going great, there's not as much to sing about or talk about or write about.
Well, especially you being a blues guy,
Yeah. So that's when writer's block comes in. But that means your life's okay, and so that's something to be joyful and happy about. And, so it's kind of goes, so that's why I do write sometimes, about other people's relationships that are near to me, because it's sometimes easier than pretending like you're in this spot and trying to, write about it. But yeah, I went on a tangent. I don't even know where I started or.
No, you're good. Totally good, man. I like that you said it once and alluded to it a couple of times. I like that you said, I think you said it originally about relationships. Well, if that falls apart, it means it wasn't meant to be. I like that. I have sort of the same attitude. It allows you to be carefree more about your life. And like, I have this saying, I don't want to be part of the results committee, and if you're not, it allows, for me anyway, that allows me not to stress out. And I'm just like, hey man, easier to be in the present, when you're not so fixated on this has to happen, And I like that you said that
Definitely.
a couple of times. Hey, let's talk about gear for a few minutes. What is your go-to guitar right now, and what other 2 guitars would round out your top 3?
Yeah, right now we just got some Eastmans in from Eastman. So it's the Juliet. It's a white Juliet from Eastman, and everything right now is standard on it. And they let us kind of try them out before they released them in Europe. And I fell in love with it. I used it that whole tour. and we got back to the States, and we were like, hey, we love these guitars. And so we got a pair over here in the States, one for me, and Henry has a red Juliet with P90s in it. Mine just has the standard humbuckers. And right now that's my go-to. I love it. It's lightweight. It sounds great, and it feels good in the hands. I'm more of the guy, if it feels good, I'm just as into how it feels as into how it sounds.
I think you have to be.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like if it sounds a little off, but the feel's really good, I probably prefer to use the guitar that feels better.
Because there's so few that feel that great. That's That's the problem. It's like I don't mean this in a sexist way, but it's like a woman. It's a whole pack. No, I mean it's got like, it's not just the looks. It's it's what's the chemistry here, man? What's So I totally get that. Exactly. Yeah.
And so
are those semi-hollow or fully hollow?
There's no F holes or anything.
Okay.
But they're so light that I don't even know how they're a full solid like body.
Yeah.
Because my next guitar would be my Armada from Music Man, which we got kind of a little prize when we won Best Live Band in Orange County in 2013. Awesome. Ernie Ball gave all the stringed instrumentalists guitars, and so it's kind of funny. So 3 of us got brand new guitars, and the other 2 didn't get anything. And so I thought it was just kind of a funny thing at the time. But
no, it is funny. Hey, you won. You guys get something, and thanks for participating.
Thanks for being here. They don't make drums though. Sorry. But yeah, so they had just released the Armada. I think they released it in 2011 or 2012. I don't know. I could look it up, but so it was brand new kind of style that they just released. And I didn't use it for like 2 to 3 years because it was probably the most expensive piece of gear that I had gotten ever.
Right.
So I wasn't going to bring it on the road. It was almost like my retirement plan at that age.
That's funny.
Then I kind of brought it out and started using it, and it's been it was my go-to, and still is, just as much as the Juliet now, but now it's the Juliet and the Armada. And I put in some Hepcat humbuckers over from France into that thing recently, and it's a beautiful guitar. I love it. It feels good, and it's I wish I had 2 of those, I'll tell you that. And then my third one would be my Sheraton 2 Epiphone.
The Epi, I've seen you playing.
Yeah, that's been my oldest guitar. I got that, probably in 2010, and that's kind of what I used on the road for everything for years and years. It's a workhorse, and during COVID, I just put in TV Jones Powertrons on that, and that thing sounds beautiful. But it's when I compare them to the other guitars, it's really not that great for the road. Just a little more fragile and big and beautiful. So I don't bring that one on the road too much anymore. I use it for local shows and whenever I just feel like I want to do something different.
It's a black guitar, right?
Yeah,
I've seen you playing. It's a beautiful guitar. It's really pretty.
Yeah, I love it. And so those are my top 3.
Very cool. And tell me your worst gig ever story.
Man, worst gig ever. Yeah. Well, okay. Well, I think there's 2, because one is just so my family owns a farm in South Dakota, right outside of Watertown, which is an hour north of Sioux Falls. And there's this really small town. I think at the time the population was probably about 500 people.
Oh, wow.
Next to it's 4 miles away from the farm, closest city to it, town, village, whatever you want to call it. And we were out on the farm. We set up a bunch of recording equipment in the old farmhouse, and we were just out there for a week screwing around. and writing music and having a good time. And we went into town and we asked the local bar. Well, we didn't ask. We're a band. We're at my grandparents' farm. We're just here hanging out. And they're like, "You want to play here?" And we're like, "Okay." And he's like, "I think I'll give you like $300." And we're like, "Whoa, okay, let's do it." So we go and get our equipment out of the farmhouse, and they get ready, quote unquote. We get back and we're like, "Okay, where do you want us to set up?" And he's like, "We'll set you out back." And we're like, "Oh, cool, outside show." And we get it back out there, and there's probably an 8x8 piece of plywood on the dirt gravel driveway or parking lot, and like, "Hey, we'll set you up right here." And we're like, "Okay." And we're like, "Is there power?" And they're like, "Oh, you need power, huh?" We're like,
sort of.
And so like they figure out how to run power out there. And, I say it's the worst gig because of stuff like that. And it was hot and there was bugs and there was really no place for anyone to stand. And there was no one there anyway. So we were kind of just out there. It was weird. It was a weird time. But then I look back on it, I'm like, well, that was a lot of fun because we went back in there and we partied at this bar in the middle of nowhere and made some friends. And,
did they still pay you?
So, yeah, they did,
Oh, that's
they
cool.
did. And so looking back on it, we had a great time. It was one of those things where it's like, who else is ever going to be playing at a bar in Lake Norden, South Dakota?
Yeah.
And then worst gig, I'm trying to think. I think it sounds kind of weird, but I think the worst gigs are when in the beginning where we probably drank too much.
Sure.
And it happens to the best of us. And,
absolutely.
In the beginning, it happened a lot more. Then now we're a little bit more responsible and take pride in our work and we're out there to do something. So let's do it as best as we can and not screw it up.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I remember shows that I don't remember. And I've had shows where I might have said the same thing over and over again and you mess up lyrics and, you're probably having a great time, but it doesn't show. It doesn't translate as that well. So I think early on, we played the House of Blues here in Anaheim, and it was just exciting because we were headlining the House of Blues in Anaheim. And I think it was a record release of some sort. And I said to myself, okay, guys, we got to be straight. And, then friends get in there that you haven't seen in a while and throw a couple back, and then you throw a couple more back. And
it happens to
everybody.
Every
that's probably the worst one.
Do you know Government Mule, right? So Jorgen Carlson, the bass player on this here, and he did an album with Matt Apps. I think it was called Planet of the Apps. They did 2 records. And I said, man, I loved the first record. I said, but I really liked the second one. He goes, really? I said, yeah, it's, and I pull out my phone. I said, this is my ringtone from one of those songs. He goes, God, I don't even remember making that record. We were so drunk. So to your point, it happens at all levels, man. It's just, he said, it wasn't like bragging about it, but it was like, it's just what we did. And, we got our shit together after that, but happens. Give me your top 3 Desert Island discs, Robert, in no particular order and just for this moment.
Just for this moment, man.
Because it changes so often.
Yeah, it changes. I feel like it changes every day sometimes. It'd be Amos Lee, Keep It Loose, Keep It Tight record. I love that record. Always loved that record. That's probably my Desert Island for probably the past 12 years.
I'm going to listen to that. I've never heard that record.
So yeah, it's great. And I'd say I like Cochise, Audio Slave, their first record.
Oh, great record.
Love that record. And I've actually been thinking about that record recently for some reason, so I should probably throw it in and take a listen. And then, man, that third one, I feel like it would, recently it would be the Crowology, the Black Crowes kind of acoustic in studio stuff. That record's just been, seems like it keeps coming into my ears recently. So those are my three at 9:52 a.m. in California.
Right on
January 17th. Those are my three.
Did the pandemic, did anything good come out of the downtime for you?
Yeah. I had a beautiful wedding.
Dude, congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome.
We were
Very
engaged
cool.
before the pandemic, but the pandemic kind of let us change up our wedding plans because we had the time to sit and think and budget out things. And we had it at a beautiful location up in Northern California.
Very cool.
That probably wouldn't have happened if the pandemic didn't hit. And that was probably one of the best things that happened because of the pandemic, is just that the day that we created from something that we weren't really planning on it in that way was really great. And it worked out in our favor because I feel like the venue was closed a month before, and then it opened, and then it closed again a month afterwards. You know, so we hit this weird little window in there when everyone was like, everything's fine. Yeah, that would probably be the best thing.
That's awesome.
That happened during the pandemic.
Congratulations. It's very cool.
I mean, we did a lot of stuff during the pandemic. We were, becoming better musicians, and we released a record during it, which I think did really well because of the pandemic, because everyone was sitting there listening to it, right, and not having nothing to do, but that would be definitely my highlight.
Yeah, getting married, I would say. That's great. That's really cool. I haven't had that answer yet, man. I don't ask that question often, but that was the best answer I've had. Tell me about a change you made or an experience you had that changed either your outlook on life or changed how you look at yourself.
Well, I mean, I think I have a brand new, almost 1-year-old.
Oh man!
Dude. Yeah, and so I don't know if the decision is the right word, but the openness to starting a family, and the minute he came into this world almost a year ago, has probably been the best amazing thing that I've done. It makes you look at the world and what you're doing through a different lens that isn't prearranged. It's just, it happens. Yeah. And it's something that's probably happens to everyone in some aspect, but to me, it was a pretty heavy switch from, I'm doing this for a whole different reason. Well, not different, but a whole nother reason. Yeah. Now. And if I'm going to be out on the road, it has to be worth it. We have to be killing it. We have to be doing what we were meant to do every night. And if we stagger, or if we're not doing our best, or if we're not having a good time, then we don't need to sacrifice being gone.
Good for you, man.
So that was definitely a big outlook change, and a way to look at what music is in my life.
Yeah, I like what you said. Being on the road better be worth it. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you like most about yourself? I know, a tough question, though.
I like how devoted I am to my friends and my family. And I like that is an important part of my life that I take very seriously, is to be there for friends and family. And yeah.
Robert, I can see why you write such good songs, man. You have a lot of good intentions in there, man, and they come out in music as well. Happiest moment? Well, I don't want to ask that. Do you have any hobbies or interests outside of music?
I like to drink good beer. feel like a lot of my life is music. It's what I do. And, sometimes it's hard to, pick up the guitar when you don't have a reason. When you're rehearsing and learning stuff and writing stuff and being on the road, sometimes it's easier to take a second and not pick up the guitar and try and let your mind go a different place, a different, see something different. And I feel like if it's a hobby, it's traveling and being in different places with my family and soaking all that in and going on vacations in the downtime. Being somewhere different is what we do for a living, but being somewhere different, not working, is a totally different space and time. And it sounds weird that traveling is a hobby because it costs money and is expensive. So it doesn't happen all the time. But whenever we get a chance hobby. Whenever we get a chance to block out some time on the calendar, it means a lot to me to go on family trips and to be out there.
What's your favorite place you've traveled, family or through music?
I've been going to Yosemite since I was a baby. My family loved going there, and we've been going there almost every year, it seems like. And that's still one of my favorite places to go. It's interesting because it's changed as far as the people, the amount of people and your accommodations, but everything else is the same. El Capitan looks the same. Half Dome looks the same. The trails are maybe not even as well groomed as they used to be. And there's still always stuff that we see that I have never seen before. We'll look up a couple hikes that we've never been on, anyone, and we'll go on them, and you see the valley from a different perspective, and it's beautiful. I still love going there, and it's still one of my favorite places. And I think because, there's a couple years where, I haven't gone there every year. As a kid I did, but when you grow up and you're busy and life takes over and you don't set out the right time to do that, so it's, that'd be one of my favorite places. And then as well as, a place that I've been to one time and like to go back would be New York.
Interesting.
I've been there once.
What'd you like about New York? This is interesting.
It was just exciting.
Yeah, it is. Exciting.
It's New York, and I traveled there on a birthday by myself, stayed with a buddy of mine, and he was working, so I would just go gallivant the city and see
that's
things.
The best.
And it would be fun to go back, not playing music, because playing music in New York is just, I feel like, more stressful than anything else in the world.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But yeah, it'd be nice to go back and experience the city again. So
that's very cool. Well, next time you go to New York, if you want some insider's tips, you tell me, and I will hit you up next time I go to Yosemite. I've been to Yosemite. I'll tell you what, it is breathtaking. I grew up in New York City, so to me, when I see animals and just nature like that, even after all these years, it's just so beautiful because I didn't grow up with that.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, we took our kids there. It was just amazing. We went to like Wyoming, all 3 or 4 states in one day. It was just, the whole thing was just fantastic, man. It was just breathtaking. I remember eating pizza in Wyoming. That was not so good, but, when you come from New York, but, I just to sit and see bison like 20 feet away from you. It was mind blowing. We had hundreds of photos, man. And they come up all the time, and I'm always sending them out to the kids and everything. It was just such great memories. So I totally get it, man. That was so beautiful. Last questions. What's the thing in your life that's either making you happiest or giving you the most satisfaction or excitement right now?
Well, I already said it, but I think it's my son.
Your family.
He's almost a year old, so he has personality, and he's not, in the first 3 months, they just kind of sit there, and you really want them to interact with you, and they don't know how yet because they're a small little baby. But it's been great the past we've been home since October, and it's been just a joy every day.
That's awesome.
Some days are harder than others, obviously, but when it's good, it's good. And when it's bad, it's still great.
Yeah. Well, you got like 11 or 12 years before it gets hectic. So
Perfect. That's great. Ready for it.
Any final words of wisdom?
Enjoy what you do and have a good time doing it.
That's awesome. Hey, let's talk about your tour that you got coming up. Where you're going out throughout Europe? When does that start?
Yeah, we're out there. It starts on February 2nd. We'll be out there. We have a couple shows in the Netherlands and Belgium. And then we head across over to the UK for 14 days. And then we head back over and do a couple more in France and in Germany. And we're excited. I mean,
that's awesome.
Last time we were there for a really long time. So we're excited to be, not excited to be gone again, but excited to only be there for a month.
14 days in England's quite a bit.
Yeah. We hit it hard like, and we do it.
It's like the size of New York State or something, It's a lot of road travel there, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily in the UK, it's you don't have very many 8-hour days like you do in the States.
Sure.
Which is great.
Sure.
But yeah, we're excited to be out on the road again, and we'll get back home and take a rest. And then we'll be out on the East Coast at the end of March, I believe.
Coming down to Florida.
I think we will be. I
Awesome.
don't even know. I think those dates are supposed to be announced today, but maybe it's in a couple of days. But yeah, I think we'll be right next to you. I think we'll be in Clearwater one of the days.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I'd love to come see you. That's great. And what's the best place for people to find it? Is it on your website, or is it on social media, or both?
Yeah, both. I mean, robertjonthewreck.com is you sign up for the email list, and we try to keep that going every week. And but we're also updating, the Instagram at robertjonthewreck.com and Facebook. I feel like the world's divided into the Instagrammers and the Facebookers.
I know.
It seems like. So both of those are going all the time and letting everyone know where we are, what we're doing, and how much fun we're having doing it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for everything. I would love everybody to check out Robert Jon The Wreck. These guys are really great. Old school. I say old school because not a lot of people are making good music now, I have to say. I know that's not a very nice thing to say because people jump all over it, but these guys are doing it the way you're supposed to do it. And he just said a minute ago, enjoy what you're doing and have a good time doing it. And you can tell these guys are enjoying what they're doing and having a good time doing it. And they're making some great music and they rock out. I'm looking forward to seeing you come down here. Anything else you'd like to promote or anything else you want me to?
Yeah, we have a live record coming out very soon, which we recorded in Brussels, Belgium on our last run. Super excited about it. That'll be out in just a few months, and so keep your ears open and that'll be exciting. Awesome. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Hang on one second, and then I'll connect with you when it's going to wrap up. Everybody, thank you so much, and thanks for all your time, and I appreciate it. It was really nice talking to you. Thanks for having me. It really was. You got some great stuff going through your head. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. If you enjoyed this interview, please share it on your social media channels. We appreciate your support. Thanks very much to Robert Jon Burrison from Robert Jon The Wreck. I'd love you to check out the band. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice, so choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar, and have fun. Until next time, peace and love, everybody. I am out.